The Four Horsemen, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, and Sam Harris, all four, sit down at a round table and they have a deep discussion on various topics. So this is on Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science YouTube channel. I'm going to go ahead and like it, subscribe. I hope you'll do the same for our channel. Subscribe, like, comment down below, share this thing out there. But the first hour of this was really interesting to hear them discuss various ways in which they're wrestling with issues, thinking through ideas, and this is the second hour of a 2-hour series. 1 hour we already watched, the first 4 in that series. We're going through the second hour, 4 parts probably. We'll see how it goes, and here we go.
The two issues converge here. One is the question, what do we want to accomplish? What do we reasonably think we can accomplish? And then this article of faith that I think circulates, unfortunately, among people of our viewpoint, that you can't argue anyone out of their beliefs. I mean, well, is this a completely fatuous exercise, or can we actually win a war of ideas with people? And I think, certainly judging from my email, we can't. I mean, I'm constantly getting email from people who have lost their faith and in effect been argued out of it. And the straw that broke...
That is a hard thing to do, though.
That camel's back was either one of our books or some other process of reasoning or incompatibility of what they knew to be true and what they were told by their faith, that I think we have to just highlight the fact that it's possible for people to be shown the contradictions and internal to their faith, or the contradiction between their faith and what we've come to know to be true about the universe, and they just, the process can take minutes or months or years, but they have to renounce their superstition in the face of what they now know to be true.
I was having an argument with a very sophisticated biologist who's a brilliant expositor of evolution, and he still believes in God. And I said, how can you, what's this all about? And he said, I accept all your rational arguments, however, it's faith. And then he said this very significant phrase to me, there's a reason that it's called faith. He said it very decisively, very almost aggressively. There's a reason that it's called faith. And that was to him the absolute knockdown clincher.
Right.
You can't argue with it because it's faith. And he said it proudly and defiantly, rather than in any sort of apologetic way.
And you get it all the time in North America from people who say you've got to read William James and have had to be able to judge other people's subjective experiences, which is something that's by definition impossible to do.
Right.
If it's real to them, why can't you respect it? I mean, this wouldn't be accepted in any other field of argument at all. The impression people are under is the critical thing about them. I had a debate with a very senior Presbyterian in Orange County. I asked him, because we were talking about biblical literalism, of which he wasn't an exponent, but I said, well, what about the graves opening at the time of the crucifixion according to St. Matthew, I'd rather say, and everyone getting out of their graves in Jerusalem, walking around greeting old friends in the city? I was going to ask him, doesn't that rather cheapen the idea of the resurrection of Jesus? But he mistook my purpose. He wanted to know if I believed that had happened. That was what he thought.
Right.
And he said that as a historian, which he also was, he was inclined to doubt it.
Right.
But that as a Presbyterian minister, he thought it was true.
I hear this all the time from my more progressive, scholarly academics who still believe. As a historian, I question this happened. As a person of faith, I accept it. I'm like, it's wild. So this whole thing from Sam Harris's point, just let's track along as we go. Sam's point is you can reason people out of some of these beliefs, or at least they themselves are willing to follow that data and are willing to be reasoned out of it, number one. Number two, Richard Dawkins brings up brilliant minds who say it's faith. There's a reason it's called faith. And I think it's because of the profound experience humans have and the coping mechanisms religion offers in light of things that science doesn't really give you solutions for or help you cope with the same way. I'll see my loved ones after they're dead. Well, that gives you hope. Or I'll be alive even though I die. That gives you hope. So death isn't something to fear, and death is a natural fear we all have evolved to have, right? We try to avoid it at all costs. And then, now you get to another example where there seems to be a split mind, and we heard this from Tim Mention in a reaction video, where the believer believes in magic, but they live a materialist world life. So they believe in magic, they say they believe in magic, but they won't walk in front of the bus typically thinking, God's going to save me from this bus hitting me. They know that the laws of logic and reason and the universe and stuff, it's going to keep moving, right? The God's not going to suspend nature in order to save you from this bus. They, for all intents and purposes, live a very non-theistic, active deity in the world kind of life.
Well, all right then. No, absolutely. For me, it was enough that I got him to say that. Right. I said, in that case, I rest my case. I don't want to say any more to you now. You've said all I could say.
Yeah. Well, there's one other chip I'd like to put on the table here.
That's actually what he did really well. Christopher Hitchens seems to have allowed his opponents to bury themselves, to hang themselves in their own arguments.
There's this phenomenon of someone like Francis Collins, or the biologist you just mentioned, someone who obviously has enough of the facts on board, enough of a scientific education to know better, and still does not know better or professes not to know better. And I think we have a cultural problem where, and this was actually brought home to me at one talk I gave, a physics professor came up to me at the end of the talk and told me that he had brought one of his graduate students who was a devout Christian and who was quite shaken by my talk. And all I got from of this report was that this was the first time his faith had ever really been explicitly challenged. And so there's something about that. It's true to say that you can go through the curriculum of becoming a scientist and never have your faith explicitly challenged because it's taboo to do so. And now we have engineers who can build nuclear bombs in the Muslim world who still think it's plausible metaphysics that you can get to paradise and get 72 virgins. And we have people like Francis Collins who think that on Sunday you can kneel down in the dewy grass and give yourself to Jesus because you're in the presence of a frozen waterfall. And on Monday you can be a physical geneticist.
Well, according to our friend...
Wow. How the mind compartmentalizes these kind of categories is interesting. Powerful tool.
The great Pervez Hudboy, the great Pakistani physicist, there are people who think you can use the jinns, the devils, and harness their power for the reactor.
It's almost tempting to fund such a project.
Yeah.
It's almost tempting to fund.
And I gather that, again, I can't get over him still. The respected Tariq Ramadan of St. Anthony's College, Oxford, says in his book, I'm told, that he believes in jinns too.
Right.
I hope I'm not doing him an injustice. I've been told that in his book, In the Steps of the Prophet, he says as much. So one is up against things that are flat out primitive and superstitious.
I think it may be easier than we're supposing to shake people's faith. There's been a moratorium on this for a long time. We're just the beginning of a new wave of explicit attempts to shake people's faith, and it's bearing fruit. And the obstacles, it seems to me, are not that we don't have the facts or the arguments. It's these strategic reasons for not professing it, not admitting it. Not admitting it to yourself, not admitting it in public, because your family is going to view it as a betrayal. You're just embarrassed to admit that you were taken in by this for so long. It takes, I think,
so it's like sunk cost fallacy, the social pressures,
tremendous courage to just declare that you've given that all up. And if we can find ways to help people find that courage and give them some examples of people who have done this, and they're doing just fine. They may have lost the affections of a parent or something like that. They may have hurt some family members, but still, I think it's a good thing to encourage. And I don't think we should assume that we can't do this. I think we can.
Yes, it's almost patronizing to suggest that we couldn't. I mean, to suggest that it shouldn't, that it's not. On the other hand, I think we all know people who seem to manage this kind of split brain feat of, as Sam said, believing one thing on a Sunday and then something totally contradictory or incompatible in the rest of the week. And there's nothing, I suppose, neurologically wrong with that. I mean, there's no reason why one shouldn't have a brain that's split in that that kind of way.
But it is unstable in a certain way. But
yeah,
and I'm sure you're right that people do this, and they're very good at it, and they do it by deflecting attention from it.
Yeah.
And let's start.
But how you can live with it?
Let's start focusing attention.
How can you live with a contradiction in your?
By forgetting that you're doing this and by not attending to it. I think what I would love to do is to invent a memorable catchphrase or term that would rise unbidden in their minds when they caught themselves doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would think, oh, this is one of those cosmic shifts that Dennett and Dawkins and Harris and Hitchens are talking about. Oh, right, and they think this is somehow...
Honestly, it's really cool seeing these four at the table, just because they're such powerful voices in this kind of community. It's interesting to see they aren't destroying each other. I guarantee you they have differences and disagreements on things about their outlooks politically, maybe even socially to some extent. I'm sure there are some things they don't align on. And I think to myself, this is awesome. Just sitting here like a fly watching these four juggernauts, brilliant minds, discuss these matters. It's interesting.
Illicit. Just to create a little more awareness in them of what a strange thing it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say that I think that cognitive dissonance is probably necessary for everyday survival. Everyone does it a bit.
Yeah.
You mean tolerating cognitive dissonance?
No, practicing.
Actually practicing.
Practicing, because, I mean, I don't know, take...
This is interesting. Cognitive dissonance is exactly, I would say, one of the best explanations for why the Christian movement continued in light of its failed apocalyptic expectations. So they just reinterpret, twist, spin, whatever. They double down. And the faith gets even strengthened and spreads even more after the failure than it would have if it didn't fail.
Case, someone who's a member of MoveOn.org, they think the United States government is a brutal, militaristic, imperial regime that crushes the poor and invades other people's countries. But they pay their taxes. It's very, very rare that they don't. They send their children to school. They do their stuff. You know, they don't act all the time as if 10% of what they believe is true.
Right.
Yeah.
Partly because it would be impossible. Say with people in the 50s who, members of the John Birch Society, who thought President Eisenhower was a communist. Okay, you get up in the morning, you believe that. What White House is run by the Kremlin, but then you have to go and get the groceries.
Right.
And do all that stuff.
Yes, why aren't you
still have to go and do it.
Too many commitments, yeah.
But you absolutely wouldn't be challengeable in your belief. It would be very, very important to you, but there would be no way in your life, your real life, of vindicating or practicing the opinion that you have. And I'm sure that the same is true of people who...
Yeah, like imagine how many conspiracy theories people hold to today. And I mean, they're all over Twitter. Twitter's the worst for it, I'd say, but I see it on Facebook too. Imagine just how many of those people live absolutely ordinary lives, go to and about and take care of their kids and all the normal functions of you, like, that person's totally normal. Then you hear the craziest conspiracies that are going on all over the internet, and these are the people like sharing it and posting it, and you can tell that they like are locked into conspiracy land. But they have completely normal lives. This is an interesting way of thinking. Cognitive dissonance is something that's helped us survive, coping with ideas we might have about something, but yet we still keep going, and in fact sometimes double down in our worldview of whatever it is.
Say, well, I shouldn't really prefer one child to another or one parent to another, but I do. I'm just not going to act as if I do.
Right.
All kinds of things of this kind.
But what do you think as educators?
Or Senator Craig saying he's not gay.
Yeah.
I think in his own mind he's absolutely sure he's not.
Right. Yeah.
But he can't manage his life by saying he is, or that he isn't.
Yeah.
So a question I wanted to ask was this: we should ask ourselves what our real objective is?
Yeah.
Do we in fact wish to see a world without faith? I think I would have to say that I don't. I don't either expect to or wish to see that.
What do you mean by faith?
I don't think it's possible because it replicates so fast, faith, as often as it's cut down or superseded or discredited. Replicates, it seems to me, extraordinarily fast, I think for Freudian reasons, principally to do with the fear of extinction.
So you mean faith in supernatural paradigms?
The wish.
But why would you not wish it?
Wish thinking. And then the other thing is, would I want this argument come to an end? With all having
you wouldn't like
conceded
to
that
retire and move on to
Hitchens
other
really won
questions?
that round. Now nobody in the world believes in God. Now, apart from being unable to picture this.
Dude, this is so interesting. That Hitchens doesn't want all faith to be gone. He doesn't think it will, no matter what, either way, because of Freudian reasons. He thinks there's the fear of extinction, that humans, obviously, we're doing this to cope, right? And like I kind of brought up earlier, in a sense, Freud, I'm sure, has much more to say about this. But then the other thing is like, if I win, that's it, game over. There's nothing else to argue about. There's nothing, there's no more of this going on.
But I'm not completely certain that it's what I want. I think it is rather to be considered as sort of the foundation of all arguments about epistemology, philosophy, biology, and so on. That it's the thing you have to always be arguing against. The other explanation.
It's an extraordinary thing. I don't understand what you're. I mean, I understand you're saying that it'll never work, but I don't understand why you wouldn't wish it.
Because I think as a bit like the argument of.
This is a good question, because it's like, why? Hold on. Christopher Hitchens, who always talks about the evils of religion, is saying, well, he kind of hopes faith doesn't go away completely. Why wouldn't you wish that? Even just wish it, you know? He understands, and you know, Dawkins literally says, like, I get that you say it probably never will, no matter what, for other reasons, but why do you wish it doesn't?
In between, I mean, Huxley.
Back it up a little.
It'll never work, but I don't understand why you wouldn't wish it.
Because I think as a bit like the argument of the argument between, I mean, Huxley and Darwin. Huxley and Wilberforce, or Darrow and William Jennings Bryan. I want it to go on
because it's interesting.
I want our side to get more refined and theirs to be ever more exposed, but I can't see it with one hand clapping.
You don't want it to go on with the jihadists. I mean, there's a certain face of this.
No, but I don't have a difference of opinion with the jihadists.
Well, you do in terms of the legitimacy of their project.
No, not really. No, there's nothing to argue about with that. I mean, there's a simple matter as well. I want them to be extirpated.
Or then move it down to the people who are blocking stem cell research.
That's a purely primate response with me. They're recognizing the need to destroy an enemy in order to assure my own survival. I've no interest at all in what they think.
But it sounds like you're
really, we haven't still come to your question about Islam, but no interest at all in what they think. Only interested in refining methods of destroying them.
Okay. So here he is. Sam brings up an interesting group of people who have an extreme ideology that believe death is the key, jihad is the answer, and jihad, not inner struggle, but like real actual warfare, combat kind of things. And he's like, no, I don't have any interest in them. I mean, like, eradicate these people at all costs, in his view. But what about the average stem cell research blocker that Sam Harris just brings up? Like, what's up with that?
In other words, you've simply given
a task in which, by the way, one gets very little secular support.
Yes,
most atheists don't want this fight.
Yeah.
The most important one is the one they want to shirk. They'd far rather go off and dump on Billy Graham.
Well,
because on that they know that they can't. There's no danger.
I think that because we find the idea of exterminating these people just abhorrent, and we think that besides it will.
No, I said
breed them
extirpating.
Complete destruction of the jihadist forces. Extermination, I think, has to be applied more as a species. Or
no, but Christopher, going back to your thing about, it sounds as though you like argument, you like having, it's almost the theatre of having an intellectual argument, which would be lost.
Well, I would rather say the dialectic, actually, Richard. In other words, one learns from arguing with other people.
Yes.
And I think all of us around this table have probably enhanced or improved our own capacities as reasoners.
Yes, but I mean, there are plenty of other things to reason about. You can having won the battle against religion, we can go back to science or whatever it is we practice, and we can argue and reason about that. And there's plenty of arguments, really worthwhile.
But it'll always be the case that some will attribute their presence here to the laws of biology, and others will attribute their presence here to a divine plan that has a scheme for them.
Well,
and you can tell a lot, in my view, about people from which view they take. And as we all know, only one of those views makes sense. But one, how do we know that? Because we have to contrast it with the opposite one.
But let me make an
which
analogy
is not
here,
going,
though.
not going to disappear.
Okay, I'm stopping it there. This is getting juicy, okay? We're already into 20 minutes of this video, right? What do you think? I think Dawkins' point is a good one, where it's like, you're in this battle here, Christopher, and you think this battle needs to go on forever, as if people are always going to be here. But if we can win this battle, then there's a new front to battle on. And I do think we've already, for many people, we've already moved to that next level of sophistication that a lot of more progressive people who are within the faith communities are being challenged, and you're kind of seeing this battle take place on a different level now. Some are trying to revert back to this bottom area again, but I feel like a lot of them are moving here, and I don't know if he's correct. Tell me if you think he's right, that it will always be people who think of magic and people who are thinking more along scientific terms. What do you think? I want your comments down below. I'm looking. I hope that you will subscribe to our channel and check the all button. So hit the bell, subscribe, hit the bell, and hit all. That way you're notified every time we do this. If you don't, YouTube won't recommend my videos. They won't remind you that we did a reaction, and I love seeing all the comments from all of you show up. It really gives me purpose to wake up in the morning. Here is my struggle that Christopher Hitchens hopes to see continue. I want to see you continue so that I can keep growing what we're doing here and exposing these ideas to a broader world. I've never watched this 4-panel, 4 Horsemen video. This is all interesting, deep insight material, I think, and it's really good to learn this material. So I hope you'll like the video, share it to your communities, be part of our family, and until next time, see you then.